It is indeed in the context of these periodic reviews and the revisions of the ICT for Accelerated Development Policy that in 2012, the Ministry of Communications led the efforts for the development of the National Broadband Policy and Implementation Strategy. The role that broadband has played in Ghana's socioeconomic development is quite commendable. Ghana now has the second highest mobile internet penetration in West Africa, according to a new report by GSMA on Ghana's mobile-enabled digital transformation. Nearly half of the population can browse the internet via mobile devices. Some very salient statistics recently published by ITU for Ghana. Mobile broadband subscription per 100 inhabitants was roughly 71. Household without a computer, 21%. Household with internet access at home, 32%. And interestingly enough, individuals with internet, roughly 35%. By the close of the day, we'll be exploring what is true broadband and the penetration of broadband in the country. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, the Broadband Ghana Forum, a one-day program, an event that is being organized under your ministry and supported by the founding members of the broadband, essentially Blue Telecom, Broadband Home, and Self-Line Communication. The Chamber is essentially an association of companies who are so enthusiastic about supporting the Ghana government's goals and strategy for a national broadband infrastructure and attainment of broadband penetration targets for the country. The theme for today, broadband as the catalyst for sustainable socioeconomic development, I believe this topic is quite apropos. Today, broadband deployment, accessibility, usage, and affordability is a critical part of any national agenda. At the end of the forum, we plan to present recommendations on guidelines and modalities. The existing broadband policy is expected to be streamlined and updated in light of many new technological advances, including 4G, long-term evolution, fifth generation 5G, and Internet of Things. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, we are looking forward to a very exciting participatory sessions at the forum. And I'd like to thank you for all coming. Thank you. The Chamber recently became a member of the Broadband World Forum, a non-profit industry organization that is focused on engineering smarter and faster broadband networks. We have asked them to share with this forum a short video message. Here we go. Thank you.
Hello to everyone attending your inaugural meeting today, and thank you for this opportunity to send you this message from the Broadband Forum. I'm recording this at the World Communication Awards evening in London, a flagship event for the industry where broadband achievements are often acknowledged from across the world. We know that Ghana is a massively expanding market and that your people are looking for increasing broadband penetration, especially in mobile. We're also seeing this trend in our work around the world, and we welcome your initiative in supporting broadband provision for your people and for your economic growth and prosperity. Broadband changes lives, living standards and connectivity with the rest of the world. Broadband has in fact already transformed the world we live in, and yet we are still on the start of our journey. So we welcome you to the broadband community and we wish you well. Have a great meeting, and please feel free to know that we are there to support you as you move forward.
Let's give a bigger round of applause to our chairman. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have the speech that will be delivered by our special guest of honor. And I must say that She's been very phenomenal when it comes to issues of broadband. And we're so grateful for the support that we received from her outfit. Please, we can do better for our minister. Thank you so much, madam. She saw into this idea and bought into it. Without her support, I don't think that we would have been here today. Ladies and gentlemen, she is the Minister for Communications and the Member of Parliament for the Ablekuma West constituency here in the Greater Accra. Let's give her a big round of applause as we welcome her to deliver her speech.
Mr. Chairman, the CEO of the Broadband Ghana Forum, heads or representatives of various organizations within this forum, the Acting Director General of NITA, Deputy Director General of the NCA, the Deputy Administrator of GIFEC, and one of the inventors of this amazing tool, which has facilitated the phenomenal growth in this IT industry, Dr. Thomas Mensah. We salute you. And yes, great things also come in black. He makes us aware that we sell ourselves short a lot of the time. And when given the right opportunities, Ghanaians and Africans can also excel, compete, and beat our compatriots in the West at their own game. I'm delighted that we're having this forum today. I remember when members of the forum came to see me, I asked them one question: why are they not part of the telecoms chamber? And they indicated that they have similar but different issues and concerns and believe they can advocate better for their own issues if they're organized as a chamber. And so I'm delighted that we're seeing this happening right before our eyes, and must congratulate you for this effort. We've been extremely busy since we took office this year. And I shared an anecdote on another program yesterday that from a tech agnostic, our president has now become one of the foremost champions of digitalization. When I was a special assistant many years ago as Attorney General, he was not interested in anything digital. And if we had to do anything on the computer, I had to type it out or even show him how to use the other functionalities on his phone. Today, he's surfing the net quite happily without assistance, and I can't believe how far he has come. And he has indicated that we should involve him in anything to do with this industry because he's a firm believer in the power of ICT to transform our economy and help us to leapfrog into the 21st century, and is determined to do whatever it takes to make sure that it happens. And so you have seen in 11 months numerous digital projects that we have begun, championed by His Excellency the Vice President in the driving seat. From the national ID, which will very soon be rolled out nationwide, to the digital property address system, interoperability of electronic payment systems, the paperless ports, smart workplaces which are being piloted in the ministries, departments, and agencies, starting with the Ministry of Communications. And many other initiatives, including linking all our databases with an interoperability platform. We're working on the public key infrastructure solution to make it possible for G2G, G2C, and B2B deepened interactions. However, all that will not be possible without the infrastructure which will deliver the data and the voice and internet access that will fuel this digital revolution that we're witnessing before our eyes. And that's where you come in. We are determined to connect the whole country, and I've been giving my marching orders within the next 2 years. It seems like an impossibility. GIFEC has done an amazing job so far with reaching unserved and underserved populations. However, the President says we cannot continue to do this in a piecemeal manner. We need to take a deliberate step and move the total connectivity of this country forward, because we don't want to leave any of our population behind. All these wonderful things we're doing should not only be reserved for those who live in the urban areas or who have access to mobile telephony and data connectivity. From the information I've received, 20% of our population is unserved or underserved. Can we continue to work with just the 80%? And what quality of internet service do the 80% also have? We need to work on all that, and we're determined to do our very best to ensure that the total transformation of this country, which we think we can achieve through an uptake in information communications technology, will be achieved by the end of the first term of this MPP administration. And so, we're working very hard to increase your business opportunities. And we're looking forward to even greater partnerships between the government, the public sector agencies, and the private sector to enable this dream be realized. Our industry is largely private sector led, and so we can only provide the enabling framework for you to succeed. Your success is our success and the success of our country. A few things we need to do as regulator, government, and industry working together. We need to review the ICT policy as a matter of urgency. This year we've been bogged down with other firefighting issues. But I can announce that early in the new year, we're going to hold a stakeholders consultation, which will involve all the players who have a part to play. And I know you have issues with several governmental agencies. They would also be brought into the room to see how we can work together to facilitate the uptake of broadband connectivity and internet access throughout the country, with being led and driven by the right policies and programs in place. We also need to work on reducing the cost of accessing the internet. I've also been told that with the amount of fiber we have in the ground in this country, it can cover this country end to end 7 times. But because of the duplication and the multiple fiber networks laid side by side by all the various mobile network operators and ISPs, we have a lot of fiber in the ground, but it is only covering specific areas. We need to change that narrative, and so we will actively encourage infrastructure sharing. If we have to do it by legislation, we will. We cannot continue like this. We want the network operators, the ISPs, to use their operating CAPEX and OPEX to provide access, the last mile access, to the people who need it most, and not to provide the infrastructure which they can lease capacity on another's network. And so we're going to see a lot more conversations around infrastructure sharing than we have seen previously. ECOWAS ministers of ICT, well, I made that suggestion and it was overwhelmingly accepted by my colleague ministers at a recent forum in Cape Verde, that if we're serious about connecting our various peoples, then we should look at other modes of laying this infrastructure than the terrestrial fiber that we have been accustomed to. And so we are committed to using the fiber over the power lines also to deliver services to our people. And that's not just empty rhetoric, but we're going to engaging with GRIDCO and ECG and NEDCO to open up their networks as well to facilitate the connectivity of this country. The fiber is there. It is largely not being used. I see other business opportunities for you as well. Let's deepen this conversation. The IFC, the World Bank, is also particularly interested in assisting us in this endeavor. We want to connect not just Ghana, but the entire sub-region. When I had to go to Cape Verde, there were two routes open to me, either to go through Portugal or Morocco. So a journey of 2-3 hours ended up taking me 24 hours. Why? With proper connectivity across the sub-region, we could even have video conferenced without having to move from our various locations. But connectivity is so poor that we had to endure all this inconvenience just so we could have a one-day meeting before dispersing to our various destinations. And to compound my woes, I had to go to Buenos Aires from there. So you can just imagine what I suffered on that trip. But it's all good. Because in all these various forums and international engagements that we've been having, there is one overriding theme and concern. What can we do quickly to connect all our peoples? And not just 2G connectivity. They're talking 5G in other jurisdictions. We're having difficulties making 2G work. The regulator has assisted in this area and has enabled mobile network operators and ISPs to provide, please, let me start. I should have started with this, my disclaimer. I'm a lawyer. I am not a techie like you. So pardon me if I make mistakes in the presentations that I'm making. I'm repeating what I've been told. That there's a technology which enables the delivery of data over 2G services. UMTS, is that it? Okay. And that authorization has been given so that at least basic data can be delivered over the 2G network, which covers a larger part of this country. But we also want to move to 5G. We also want Internet of Things. We also want the connected devices. We are determined to put a device in every school child's hands to give them a chance to compete in this digital age. We want to institutionalize the teaching of coding at the basic level so that our children can also be given the foundations to innovate and to create the various softwares and applications. The GM SA also gave us a very poor statistics that just about 57 or 67% of women use the internet, even when they have those capabilities on their mobile devices. We need to change that as well. So we want to scale up the education, computer literacy of all our people, including women and children. It's not possible probably to do all that by 2020, but we would have gone a long way towards achieving that. Can government do it alone? Not by a long shot. And that's where you come in. I want you to consider the possibilities that this determination by government to digitalize our economy opens up for your businesses, and to work with us to also make this not just a dream, but a reality. And together we can change the way we live and work. I keep telling people when we're discussing the digital property address system that my favorite kenke seller is in Mempasem, which is somewhere near East Legon. I say she makes the best kenke in Accra. And I will happily give her digital address to everybody. Now, when I do that, and people will take me up on the challenge of determining whether hair kenke is the best in this country or not. So they will go and sample it. And by sampling it, they increase her business and her productivity. And she would be producing more. And she will need credit to expand her businesses. And the banks will be willing to give her credit because they know their customer and know her location. And so it reduces the risk of giving her credit. She gets the loans, she invests in her business, she expands her kenke business, she employs more, she moves into the taxation bracket. She can then pay taxes to also contribute her bit to the development of this country. It is not just isolated, scattered interventions that we're doing. We are determined to formalize our economy, and we can only do that through technology. When all that is done, and GRA, she's registered her business with the Registrar General's Department, which is linked to the Ghana Revenue Authority, she can be located. She can be tracked. Whatever assistance she needs to grow her kenke business can be provided for her because she is now part of the formal economy. And with the increased profits that she's generating, she can also establish other branches around the country or the city and employ even more people. She will be able to also deliver her kenke to people who order it over either the phone or internet. And that kenke will be delivered to your office at lunchtime by a courier service or by Ghana Post. So without you leaving your office, you get the benefit of sampling the excellent kenke that Nakai produces. And she's part of the digital economy. There is something for everyone in there. It is not just for us, the educated elite, but for every chain, every part of this production chain in this country. From Nandom, where I was last weekend, and where they make excellent shea butter, to Keta, where they have wonderful bobitaji. And I do travel, so I sample the local delicacies when I go there. All the way to Elubo or Axim, and I was in Abidjan the other day, and I had some wonderful acheke and tilapia there as well. So from every part of this country, no matter what is produced locally, once they are part of this digital economy, their businesses will thrive and prosper. Our children will receive a better education. We will be able to deliver better healthcare services to our people around the country. And I know I'm preaching to the converted in this room here, because you all know the possibilities that in this industry will deliver to our people. So I know that when I call upon you to partner with government to make this a reality within the next 2 or 3 years, it is something that you've probably been waiting to hear for some little while. But we're determined to move from rhetoric to action. And so I am looking forward to receiving the recommendations from this forum today. And I'm extending this invitation to you to all partner us in the stakeholders engagement that we will be having next year. And please, I don't want any fancy big English. Let's drill down to the basics. What can we do together to ensure that we have a connected country which is delivering the benefits of digitalization to every inhabitant of Ghana within the next 2-3 years? Thank you.
Don't you love the commitment of our Honorable Minister for Communications, to ensuring that internet gets to the home of every Ghanaian. Honorable Minister, I would want to know the location of that kinky seller. Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the next on the item is going to be a special presentation. And if you look at the program, it is on infrastructure development in telecommunications. And you heard the Honorable Minister during the introductory remark that big things also come in black. And so, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dr. Thomas Mensah, who is most competent, I believe, to handle this session of the program. Thank you.
An expert because that's very impressive. Give her a hand. Well, I want to start off by thanking all the speakers on the day, starting with the chair, our chair, Yao Kutu. I met him at MIT. He had a PhD in MIT, MBA from Harvard. What a great combination. And now he's heading this broadband initiative for all the wireless the minister communication, I said, for Ursula, I'll do anything, and for you, of course, I will participate. Of course, my good friend, who is the head of NTIA, who you'll be hearing from, so I wouldn't be saying much. Well, I'm Dr. Thomas Mensah. Most of you probably have seen a little bit about me, maybe on YouTube, on Africa 54, Voice of America. But as a matter of fact, I'm one of the 4 people that created the fiber optics, which is in essence the equivalent of what makes the broadband work. I'm one of the innovators of that. As a matter of fact, out of the 4 guys, 3 whites and me, I was the only black among the 4. Can I have the first slide? Probably some of you, this is the first time you are seeing what a fiber optics is. This is the green. You see the green thread? That's 250 microns. That's very, very small. It's thinner than your hair. This is what carries the laser pulses that send the videos, that send the emails, that send the tweets. This is the first time probably you are seeing this because you have to cut your cable to actually see several hundreds of this. So I'll pass it around and I want it back when you feel it. I spoke at some conference in England. Somebody was trying to take it away, you know, in his pocket. But basically, the laser pulses are traveling through this little thread, And the laser pulses travel at the speed of light. So your YouTube video is sent at milliseconds, 1,000th of a second, and your YouTube video is there. And so this thing here, which we created, allows you to see the videos. You know, if this is put on YouTube, you see it all over the world. You can send here, make calls to China, South Africa, everywhere because of this technology. And I'm one of the guys, at least the guy that moved it out of laboratory curiosity to global market development. Drawing, which I had here. Yeah, it's so interesting. I put here so you can all see it. And you guys have seen it before, and you're projecting it here so you guys can see it. It was funny, I was on Voice of America, and they didn't have the right thing to hold it, and I'm speaking, and it was falling back. I wish I had you saw it. I wish I had a magic technology that can put it back upright. But as you see on this rendering, I have the map of Ghana. And on this map, if you can put the camera on it, we're going to have a bullet train in Ghana. And bullet train starts from the places that the Honorable Minister has talked about. From Accra, the capital, Takoradi, through Kumasi, all the way to the north near the border. And the fact that this bullet train is traveling at 220 miles an hour, and I'm pushing it so that we can have the Chinese develop this for us within 3 years, in the same time frame, Honorable Minister, you mentioned, not only because of the train itself, but as a matter of fact, you can go from Accra all the way to Tamale in 1.5 hours. Not 9 hours, not 11 hours, but in 1.5 hours you are there. In other words, you can stay in Tamale and work at Accra and get back home. So this is transformational. This is very important to us. Just like the digitization, which I would probably couple with what I'm talking about. This is so important for us. Somebody told me, Doctor, can we crawl before we walk? I said, we've been crawling for 40 years. For 40 years, we have a single lane highway that goes from Accra to Tamale. And guess what? What is the bridge name? Buipe, and which is the second one? Yeah, Yape. These bridges have shut down the highway for 2 weeks. And the cars that are coming this way, stop. The cars are going that way, stop. How can the country perform or grow GDP when you have this for 2 weeks? The bullet train will get us there in 1.5 hours. And so we are pushing. That's why I came all the way here. We're going to do it. And we're also going to put, if you want, a fiber optic line along the high-speed rail. So you can sit by the Wi-Fi in the train, you can sit in the train and be on your internet. And with the fiber optics all the way to Tamale, guess what? We can branch off into all the villages. And as this forum, particularly the minister said, when I can branch off to the villages at all corners, it means I can put my broadband services there. The goal is to have a 2-year-old in Ghana studying at the same rate as a 2-year-old in the United States. There's no way a 2-year-old in England should study faster than 2 years. You know, they are playing games and learning at the age of 2. I want them to grow up competing. I compete on the world stage. I compete with the likes of Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, Google. And it's because I feel I can do it. I have a book on nanotechnology. They don't have one. I created a platform that they are using right now, and therefore you have the ability, as I said in my book, the right stuff comes in black. Repeat, the right stuff, the right stuff, the right stuff, the right stuff, the right stuff comes in black too. I am the right stuff. You are the right stuff. You got to have that confidence. And we're going to build a train. It's going to move us forward. I'll step quickly through this. Ben, can you step quickly through the slides? In the high schools, in the elementary, primary schools, I have 3,000 in one stadium. And I tell them, I show them basically a bird with a camera in its head. And the bird flies and takes pictures. Kids love that. And send it to my cell phone. I tell the bird, move to the right, move to the left, flap your wings, go higher. Oh, by the way, the guy we are watching is going to that room. Go to that room. You know, if you're a terrorist, we can follow. We can follow him. He doesn't know that the bird. He says, "Oh, this is a bird," but the bird has eyes, and it's sending information to us. Later at some point you see how. But the kids love that. Now I said to do this, you got to do well in your mathematics, your algebra. That's what tells the bird the coding. And the software, your mathematics is going to help you do that. And so they can relate their cell phone to their mathematics and stuff like that. So the STEM is very important. Later you can look at something called blackgenius.com, and that will show you some of the things I'm doing. And the books are there too. There are 4 books on innovation. Fiber optics engineering, superconductor engineering, the right stuff comes in black, and nanotechnology commercialization just came out. Now, these are the patterns you see here. The one on the left is the patent that makes the submarine that you put on the water, the cable they put on the water. This patent makes strong fiber optics. So you can cable it. You know how thin the glass is? It's so strong that you can cable them, put on the water. So Mark Zuckerberg say I have 1 billion people connected to the internet is because of this invention. This is the patent, where I replaced the nitrogen gas with carbon dioxide because our boundary layer analysis showed us that carbon dioxide should replace nitrogen gas throughout the world in all the processes for making fiber optics. So I had the first patent on that, and this allows us to manufacture fiber optics from 2 minutes a second to 50 minutes a second. That means now I can replace all the copper wires in America, the whole world, with fiber optic system and be able to receive YouTube videos. And things like that. Well, when you look IP Watchdog, you can see all the patterns there. The one below, you've all seen this process on video when the smart bombs are hidden. Or you see a smart bomb hidden. We are the first to develop a patent on the fiber optic guided missile. A black person. So the right stuff comes in black too. Next slide. Step through that. That's the actual patent. You see the missile flying? That missile has a little camera on the tip of the missile that's taking pictures, digitizing it, and putting it on a fiber. So the pilot doesn't have to know mathematics. He just lock on. If the tank moves, the missile is following it. That's the first, probably my 7th patent. Next slide. Next slide. Quickly, let's step through this. That's the smart weapons. It's called fiber optic guided missile. Let's move quickly through this. Well, this is the book. When you go to blackgenius.com, you'll be able to see this. The right stuff comes in black. It's translated into French. L'étoffe des héros existe également en noir. That means the right stuff comes in black in French. O lo correcto viene en cola negro también. That's Spanish. So it translated those 3 languages. This book nanotechnology commercialization, is going to move America and the world to the next level. How many would love a cell phone that you charge once and stay charged for 1 week? You don't have to charge it every night. Or you're talking and your laptop goes dead. This battery based on nanotechnology will let your laptop stay on for several days, using it, your cell phone for several days, maybe 6 days, without charging. Nanotechnology can break. So this is the book that will take us there. I'm the editor-in-chief of this book. The first nanotechnology book used in UK, US, MIT, everywhere. Next slide, quickly. Well, these are the fiber optics on the sea cable that I talked about, joining America to South America, particularly this one, coming from Spain all the way around Africa. Ghana is tapped into this. This is a fiber optic submarine cable that allow our internet to perform based on that invention all the way to South Africa. Next slide. Well, you see everything. You see that lady there? She is working on her laptop while the bullet train is traveling at 220 miles an hour. Whether it's train at Grand Vitesse in France or the Chinese train, that's what's happening. And of course, we can use that in medicine and everything. Next slide, quickly. You've seen all these towers. But this is important. Let's go back. That's the laser you see there. It's in my books. The green laser is what's traveling along that glass fiber. This is what's sending your voice. This is what's sending your tweet. This is what's sending your emails. In milliseconds, 1,000th of a second, the speed at which light travels. We thought about this 15, when I invented the system to move it from the lab to the industry, it's been there for 15 years. But now, guess what? The entire social media network uses this. And our goal here is how do we move it forward? How do we cover the entire Ghana with this? How do we make sure that we can have a little girl get on it and he's, and then how can we reduce the cost of doing our business on the internet? And the impact on e-government, impact on mobile banking, and the whole world. You send trillions of dollars through fiber optics on New York Stock Exchange or Ghana Stock Exchange or Japan Stock Exchange or Nikkei Stock Exchange. Next slide. That's the laser that travels. We developed that. Next slide. Quickly. Let's step through quickly. Quickly. So that's the fast train you see at the bottom. If you can do a bullet train, because it travels like an aircraft, you can make planes. Once you have stretch goals, as John F. Kennedy said, that we will put a man on the moon in 10 years, and they did it in 9. And I'm saying here, we will build a bullet train in Ghana in 3 to 4 years. It should be done. Next slide. Well, this lightweight SkyMax, and this is in the digital world. This is one of our companies that, basically it's data. It's 5G. All right? We want to make sure, guess what, that your digital data will be cheap. We will be singing your videos. All that will go through this. Locally, we'll download YouTube and Facebook. Download it locally. Quickly. Let's try. Next slide. Now, we talk about industrial internet. I'm not going to waste too time. Just step through this week. I brought a lady who runs 140 plants around the world. Black woman for General Motors. And they are using industrial internet. So you can sit here and optimize all the factories because of the digitized world, because we are using the cloud data to control machines and let machines talk to each other in 165 plants. Hopefully, if we do the train, we'll bring GM, we'll bring Tesla, we'll bring all those guys in Ghana to put factories here. Next slide, quickly. Where you have sensors on the highway, we talk about Internet of Things, you got sensors on the highway. When you see the driverless car with a person, without a person driving, they're going to drive our trucks. It's getting data from the bridges, from the highway. The sensors are transmitting the data. Broadband, that's that. Quickly. Let's start. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. All the way to the watch. Now, this is where we are. I'll show you an example. The Internet of Things is going to move to your home. And you see that? We have digitized your hand. So every movement of your hand will digitize it. You see the arrow? So you move your hand, It tells the light in this room, be brighter. You move your hand, it tells it dim. You can even change colors, you know. And basically, it's by hand gestures. That's all it is. So let's move ahead and play the video on it quickly. See the smartwatch? These are for kids. A little kid is kidnapped. He presses the watch. The data goes through the police station. They are following the car with GPS. And no matter where they are, the kid, you retrieve the kid, the first thing you do is hug the kid. So it's called Hug Watch. You can Google that and see it quickly. Let's look at the video and that's the end. Quickly. No, the video. See, on the sideline, we can pair it, you know, and they see, but the video, quickly.
You know that it is not something out of the blue. We have the men here. We have great inventors here. And I'm glad that Dr. Mensah has given us such an insight. I believe that when we get out of here, we'll be able to continue with the work to ensure that, you know, the national digital agenda is vigorously pursued in all corners of this country. Thank you very much, Doc, for that presentation. The next on the item is the status of broadband regulation. And we're going to invite Mr. Henry Kano. He's an engineer by profession to do us the honors. He's currently the Deputy Director General in charge of technical operations at the National Communications Authority. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Mr. Henry Kano.
Honorable Minister, executives and members of the Broadband Communication Chamber, colleagues from the telecom industry, ladies and gentlemen, we at the National Communications Authority are always happy to engage with industry players. I am here on behalf of the Acting Director General, Mr. Joe Anochi, who is on another national assignment, and he extends his most sincere apologies. We are in a space which is very dynamic and consider any opportunity to interact with the key stakeholders in this industry as an important one. Our focus today, ladies and gentlemen, will be divided into 4 parts. That's looking at what regulation means, the mandate of the National Communications Authority, the various laws and regulations we enforce as pertains to broadband wireless access, and the national broadband policy and implementation strategy. Honorable Minister, regulations in our industry as at now is as follows. It is important to state from the onset that regulatory regimes we apply to all the various services under our jurisdiction are largely the same. The way we regulate broadband wireless access services is no different from mobile network services, nor different from mobile virtual network services, VSAT carrier network services, etc. as well. Indeed, what is different are the various license conditions. The emergence of advanced technology means that consumer expects to receive faster and more advanced service from the service providers. Faster internet is the dream of every user, and the regulator is no exception. This quest has led to the NCA to take a number of regulatory decisions that open up the internet to more people, including those in the underserved and served areas. We'll come back to that later. The telecom industry is one of the most dynamic industries, and this list lends itself to the changes in license conditions. With the advancement of new technologies, the consumer of telecommunication product is open to this advancement, and it means that players have little or no option than to keep abreast with the fast-paced changes. The question that arises for us as regulators is, are licensees or authorization holders meeting the conditions of their licenses? For example, if a BWA licensee has a condition that says they should provide their services across the country, the question is, do they indeed do so? Or when an FM authorization holder is given a clearly stipulated radius within which to operate, do they indeed do this so? Or they granularly broadcast outside their limits? These are often situations of such infractions where conditions of licenses are unheeded, compelling the regulator to take action. But the question is, why do we regulate? The International Telecommunication Union, in its 10th anniversary telecommunication regulatory handbook, published in 2011, stated that we regulate, 1, to avoid market failure. Secondly, to foster effective competition. Thirdly, to protect the consumer interests. And finally, to increase access to technology and services. Honorable Minister, the NCA has successfully executed these responsibilities in a largely effective manner as we strive for perfection as a world-class regulator. Ladies and gentlemen, what's the mandate of the NCA as pertains to broadband wireless regulation? Act 769 of 2008 established the National Communications Authority. In fact, it was the Act 524 of 1996, which was repealed in 2008. So we have the new one, Act 769. And the NCA as a central body to license, regulate communication activities, services in the country, and also provide for related purposes. The object of the authority is to regulate the provision of communication services in the country. In the Act of 769 of 2008, Section 3 of the Act, from subsections A to E, the authority has the mandate to establish, monitor, and implement of national communication standards and ensure compliance accordingly. The authority is to formulate strategic plan, grant communication license, regulate and monitor licenses holders of frequency authorizations in consultation with the Media Commission where appropriate. That's when it comes to the broadcasting aspect of it. And finally, ensure fair competition among licensees, operators of communication networks, and service providers of public communications. To reiterate, the NCA is empowered under Section 3C of the NCA Act 769 of 2008 to issue licenses for the operation and provision of communication services and to determine the eligibility criteria of applicants for the said licenses. This is done with the due consideration of the principles of transparency, fairness, non-discrimination, and all other relevant principles. What are the rules of engagement that the NCA used in dispatching its duties? The current legal statutes that the NCA applies in its duties are found. Ghana ICT for Accelerated Development Policy of 2003, the National Communication Regulations of 2003, LI 1719, the National Communication Policy, Telecommunication Policy, NTP 05 2005, the National Communications Authority Act of 2008, Act 769, the Electronic Communications Act of 2008, Act 775, the Electronic Communications Amendment Act of 2009, Act 786, Guidelines for the Deployment of Communication Infrastructure of 2010, and the Normal Portability Regulations of 2011, LI 1994. Specifically when it comes to broadband wireless access services, in 2012, the National Communication Authority decided to license entities to provide broadband access wireless services in the 2.5 gigahertz band. The key reasons for licensing spectrum in the 2.5 gigahertz band are as follows. To enhance competition in the broadband space, which was expected to result in the following. Improve product and service development and diversity. Greater national and regional access and affordability. Competitive pricing and associated increased penetration, which will contribute to bridging the digital divide and attainment of socioeconomic balance. Secondly, to accelerate the bridging of the urban-rural opportunity divide in employment, income, taxes, and authority endeavors to facilitate the increase in internet broadband penetration in the country. Accelerate attainment of universal access for the internet and broadband access. Meet government and parliamentary mandates per the National Telecommunication Policy of 2005. Mitigate urban-rural digital divide. And finally, expand rural economic opportunities due to the collateral effects of affordable communication access. Ladies and gentlemen, the entities that were licensed during this period were Self-Line Communications Limited, Goki Telecom Limited, Blue Telecom, and Broadband Hub. 3 other entities since have been licensed to provide broadband wireless access services. although in different frequency bands. These are MTN in the 800 megahertz band, Telesaur in the 1800 megahertz band, and Busy Internet in the 2300 band. In order to further bridge the digital divide, the NC has given the mobile operators the opportunity to deploy 3G services in the 900 megahertz band, the existing 900, that's the 2G band, which the Honorable Minister alluded to earlier. In unserved and underserved areas, this is expected to help provide access to internet and service-deprived areas. NCA will soon implement a unified access service licensing regime, which will enable telecom operators to deploy services using access technology regardless of the frequency assigned to them. This may enable telecom operators to deploy technologies such as carrier aggregation, which is very important when we come to 4G, 5G distance. You need extra to have capacity and coverage. The Universal Access Fund, GIFEC, is also helping to bridge the digital divide through provision of ICT centers, as well as provision of low-cost base station solutions to enable the telecom network operators to provide access to the broadband service in the unserved and underserved areas. Honorable Mr. It's suffice to also state that NCA also created the opportunity for licensing of infrastructure players, because you cannot only regulate the access end of the broadband, but you have to also boost the infrastructure. So we have what we call the tower companies who provide, and the infrastructure companies like C-Square, the Metro Fiber companies, all these were also part of the regulatory interventions to boost broadband. The National Broadband Policy and Implementation Strategy. The authority has a key role to play in the execution of this policy. It is important to mention, however, that the NCA is not the lead entity to this. We have been primed to execute the part of our role needed to actualize this. Indeed, as part of the work we do as a regulator, quality of service monitoring is an integral part of our business, and we do so on a regular basis to ensure the delivery of standardized services by providers as speculated in the licenses. Ladies and gentlemen, the same document, the National Broadband Policy document, outlines the following as the major broadband policy objectives. One, to promote adequate supply in terms of broadband infrastructure and to support economic development and improve social cohesion. Two, to promote universalization of broadband. To stimulate private sector interest in investment in broadband networks, services, and application of through robust competition. To stimulate a demand to ensure efficient take-up of broadband services. Identify gaps in the regulation and introduce new areas or new ones to facilitate sustainable broadband rollout. And finally, to ensure efficient allocation and management of scarce resource, spectrum resource, and other facilities, including the right of way and sharing of infrastructure resources. Honorable Minister, the NCA has positioned itself in pushing for the attainment of these policy objectives already. As already indicated, we are regulating our spectrum in a way that ensures that the state gets value for money, and also ensure that based on prevailing economic circumstances, consumers are offered the best possible services. When it comes to licensing as part of regulation, the NCA indicated at an earlier forum this month that the authority has been engaged in a few activities to make broadband available to Ghanaians through the regulatory powers constitutionally entrusted to it. We have subsequently licensed some entities to provide services that support broadband execution. Shall we run through some of this momentarily? What the Honorable Minister just alluded to, like say UMTS 900. The 2G service was predicated on the 900 megahertz band. And as per license condition, the GSM operators have to roll out their 2G services on, that's the voice-centric services on the 900 frequency. But as technologies improve with advancement, in September this year, the National Communications Authority announced that we had taken a regulatory decision to permit mobile operators with existing 2G licenses to deploy universal mobile telecommunication systems, that's UMTS, which is a 2G technology in unserved, underserved communities across the country. The UMTS is expected to result in what? Increased data access to areas which hitherto were not covered by the MNOs with 3G services. So all that the operators have to do is forward to the NCE areas that are not covered with 3G services. And we, within like the Director General instructed, within 2 weeks, the authorization of the license will be approved for you to run. And currently, as we speak, 2 operators have done that, and Honorable Minister, they are started rolling out. As you may know, Universal Mobile Telecommunication System, UMTS, is a 3rd generation technology, as I said. It is deployed using 900 megahertz frequency band, which was originally assigned for the deployment of 2G services in Ghana. UMTS technology was originally authorized in this state. In Ghana, the 3G services hitherto have been deployed on the 2100 megahertz frequency. So now there's new innovation to use the 900 megahertz. Of course, this will give more coverage, less capex for you to roll out the 3G in this band. With this, we'll be promoting digital inclusion in Ghana, and the process of customers in unserved, underserved areas will see the immense benefits, especially as they see the improvement with their access to data and data services. Additionally, since this will lead to the maximization of spectrum use, it will lead to the enhanced, consistent 3G user experience and reduced 3G coverage black spots. The technology will also introduce choice, competition for the consumer, will increase data penetration, improve spectral efficiency, and improve handover problems. Broadband wireless access licensing. In accordance with the NCA mandate under the Electronic Communications Act, Act 775, and the National Telecom Policy of 2005, the authority has awarded licenses for provision of broadband wireless access in the 2.5 gigahertz band, as I earlier understood. The band to a number of companies. In addition, 6 mobile operators who account for mobile subscription numbers. There are 4 broadband wireless access licensees, 52 ISPs providing data in the market. They are providing various wireless services to serve some particular broadband needs of consumers across the country. This has led to the competitive pricing and availability of service hitherto unavailable. This is a key driver in extending internet access beyond the corporation and offices. In December 2015, the NCA announced that NTN has won the bid for 1 block of the 2 by 10 megahertz in the 800 megahertz spectrum. It was a transparent process which was conducted under high security, overseen by and managed by independent auctioneer KPMG. be additional MNO. The 4G spectrum given to MTN, or that was won by MTN, will enable MTN to roll out the 4G services with less capex and more faster way. All that we say is that during the digitization of the television broadcasting, there were some spectrum that were harvested from the television, analog television, what we call the digital dividend. And part of it was auctioned for broadband, because the International Telecommunication Union decided that that portion of the band should be used for broadband or mobile wireless services. The authority is considering auctioning the second block of the 800 megahertz band, and this will mean that a new block offering 4G speed through broadband for users across the country. Honorable Mr. Executives, members of the Broadband Communication Chamber, colleagues from the telecom industry, ladies and gentlemen, from my discourse, it can be clearly seen that regulations take into account the needs of various stakeholders, and the regulator has to ensure that it is a finely tuned balance to ensure a win for the country and not for one person or a particular group of stakeholders. In addition, meet the objectives of regulations as I listed in the earlier part of the listing. I therefore thank you for your attention, and I hope that we can collectively help in bringing the fruition the full potential of broadband of the people of this land. That's all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kano. Those were really assuring words indeed, and I hope that when we come to your offices, just like the Honorable. Just do a little introduction and then she'll leave, yes. The Honorable Minister has a couple more engagements, and so she will be taking leave of us pretty shortly. But before that, I would just want to acknowledge the presence of representatives of Huawei. They are here. Please be up and then let's see Huawei. Okay, GIFEC. Do we have reps from GIFEC? Please acknowledge. Let's please stand up and let's see you. Nokia. Do we have any reps from Nokia? Please. Thank you. Representatives from Broadband Home. Is he here? Okay, sure. That way. Thank you very much. As we go on, I'll be acknowledging the various groups and institutions that are here. We would like to go for break, but we have one more presentation before that. But the Honorable Minister would like to thank you very much for having time with us this morning. Don't forget the Kenke direction. I really need that. So we will have the presentation by Mr. Yaya Osman from the Ghana Investment Fund for Electronic Communications, GIFEC. Please, let's give him a round of applause. Please be seated. The minister will not leave now. She's going to sit through this last presentation. So please, kindly take your seats. Kindly take your seats. You will have time to interview her, so don't worry.
Okay. Good morning. You realize my minister was just stepping out. Yeah, and she's already sounded a warning to me to do it quickly because she has to quickly attend to some other things. So I'll be running through a few slides with you on what GIFEC is doing as a universal access fund. Certain Dr. Thomas Mensah and all the things that we see that are likely to be implemented in Ghana for us to see the benefits of fiber technology. I got scared because if you look at this video, it's a very short video. I'm sure many of you might have seen a couple of months back. Something that happened in Asin, yes, where people were using stones. School children were using stones to learn ICT. If you also, please move to the next slide. If you also look at this picture, please don't be tempted to believe that the gentleman is committing suicide. This is not a suicide mission at all. This is somebody trying to get telephone signal. Yes. His hand is, and this is not only happening in Ghana. This picture is from India, a minister of state in India climbing a tree just to have signal. Please. This is somewhere in Indonesia, somebody sitting on top of a tree just to get telecommunication signal. You can see these guys are not partying. They are looking for signal. This typically reminds me of the days of MTN. MTN used to have a promo where you say, my zone. Okay. Right. Let's move to that. So, I picked this slide from ITU website. It's from a company called World Development Forum. And it typically looks at a typical day in the life of the internet. And it talks about, on that day, the slide, please let me stay there for a minute. On the day this thing was done, it was seen that about 8.8 billion people watched YouTube. 277 billion emails were sent on that day. 186 million Instagram pictures were uploaded. A lot of data was generated on that day. Please move to the next slide. In spite of all the statistics you have just seen, there's still a huge divide that still exists. The divide exists between countries and within countries, as you can see, because if we heard what Dr. Thomas Mensah said, it means that a whole lot of things are being done out there, many of which we don't have here. So there's a big divide between what is happening there and what is happening in Ghana. And within Ghana also, there is a divide between those of us who happen to find ourselves in Accra and our rural folks. So we still have a divide in broadband, a divide in internet, a divide in mobile penetration, and a divide in digital signals. So to address this, the government set up a fund to collect some levies from the licensed mobile telecom companies to deploy facilities to bridge the digital divide. If you see this picture, this is not Apple. This is what is called Cherry. Now, infrastructure service providers, and for that matter, ISPs, mobile network operators, in their deployment, they do what we call cherry picking. They do the cherry picking not because they don't want to deploy everywhere. They also have genuine reasons. So things like revenue, investment, the initial capex that they have to sink in, their return on investment. They look at the number of people that they have to serve and everything, and lack of suitable power and the appropriate technologies that they need to put in place. So this is where GIFEC steps in. And GIFEC was set up under the Electronic Communication Act 775 to bridge the digital divide that exists in this space. So what do we do as a fund? GIFEC provides the financial resources for the establishment of universal service and universal access, and also facilitate the provision of access to basic telephony, internet, multimedia, broadband, broadcasting services by these areas. We have a very huge mandate, unfortunately, with little bucket. So in doing that, our objective is to expand coverage of broadcasting signals, support demand stimulation, capacity building. If you put all the infrastructure in place and there is no demand, then it is as users as not doing it. Next slide, please. So over the years, this is what we have done so far. We have a number of programs that we have implemented. The first one is what we call Cyber Laboratory, where we support communities and schools with ICT facilities. So in doing that, we give them computers, we give them internet, we give them computer accessories, just to get them educated in ICT and make use of ICT facilities. We have the universal access to basic telephony, which is what the pioneers of the service implemented. I'm happy to mention that the Minister of Communication happened to be a member of the first Board of Trustees of the Universal Service Fund. And at the time, it was called GIFTEL, Ghana Investment Fund for Telecommunication. The mandate at the time was basically just to bridge the divide in telecommunication. But now we have an expanded mandate, and so we just don't look at only telecommunication, we look at other areas in ICT. So that is why we now branch into computer and accessories and internet and other things. But coming back to, please, still on the same. Coming back to the universal access to telephony, we have a number of telecom towers in place, which were established for the purposes of co-location. So they are available for telecom companies. Some of them have been incumbent, some are still available. We have rural telephony project, which are 10 key solutions that we have put in place. Many of them powered by green technology, use solar, backhaul to telecom companies, using any suitable backhaul technology in the very remote areas, very difficult terrains. We have implemented this using satellite. We have ICT for livelihood. Many of you might have heard of some of our funny interventions. We have e-fishing, which we have used to help fishermen. Disability, we have also tried to look at our less privileged members of Ghanaian society by helping them. We have supported government institutions. We have also tried, as government talks about the digital migration exercise, we have put ourselves in place to support our people who, by no choice of theirs, may have some difficulties as the migration is taking place. I have my TV in my house. By no choice of mine, I'm watching the analog, and tomorrow government puts in something, and I am disadvantaged. So we are putting in some structures to help that exercise. We also, a couple of years back, there was this cry every time people need signals, people need communication. But then when a telecom company goes to construct a mast and put the active devices on, then the people in that community, in no time you hear them make noise. Some go to EPA, go to other places to complain that they get. Some people complain of stomach ache, some people complain of headache, some people complain of ailments that were difficult to understand. So the supervision of the minister, because she doubles again, in this case again, as the chairperson of the Board of Trustees of GIFEC now. And so this year alone, by the end of December, we are putting in place about 100 telephony services to a number of communities. So what it means is that about 100 communities would have telephony service. And by the end of the first quarter in 2018, another 114 would come. The plan of GIFEC by the approval of the Board of Trustees is that at the end of 2018, we should have about 600 of these put in place. Now, the technologies we are using is broadband, is through the UMTS, and in the very difficult terrain, please move. In the very difficult terrain, this is what we are using. We are using our satellite hub. GIFEC through the approval of the Board of Trustees again, because we deal with rural communities, and it is not everywhere that we can get the conventional backhaul technology. So we have a satellite hub available that we use in doing that. Next slide. All right. Now, we are talking about a digital economy and digitalization and everything. Sorry, but that word is difficult. Digitalization of the economy. To have a digital economy means that you need to put in place a number of facilities. So what we have in GIFEC, what we are also doing is that we are putting ourselves in readiness for what we call smart communities. We are creating avenues that will make our communities smart in order to ensure that the Ghana Post app that is there, that we are talking about, the national identification exercise that is coming on, a whole lot of the EU services that government has spent so much money on, that government have available, so that we would enable government to government communication, government to business, citizens to government, and a whole lot of avenues. So to do that, we have what we call rural Wi-Fi that we are putting in place. And as we speak now, we have 4 communities that we have we are piloting this. When you happen to find yourself in Goso, Asumura, Asankregwa, and Brekum, you would find this, where we are deploying Wi-Fi in those communities to serve schools and the rural farmer and a whole lot of things. Under that program, we also have what we call Digital for Inclusion. The objective of the Digital for Inclusion is to bring financial inclusiveness, digital inclusiveness, and to create entrepreneurs in our rural communities. Okay, we are in Accra here. We find ourselves where in every 1 kilometer you can find a bank. But I'm told, just this morning I heard this and I was sad. I come from the north. In Boku, which is in the Upper East region, I am told that apart from commercial bank, there is no other bank. So as part of our intervention, we have what we call a digital financial inclusiveness package, where we have partnered with a private sector player. And in a rural community, you can have access to more than 20 banks. So when we put that in place in Boku, for example, or in Asumura, which happens to be in the thick of a forest in the western region, you'll be able to get access to this. And in doing this, we try to create some biases. Okay, we try to create biases. Mr. Minister mentioned this morning about the fact that it is her desire to see that a lot of women are empowered digitally. And so GIFEC, as a universal access in doing our work also, we are mindful of that. And so please let me step through the last slide before this. So what we are doing is that in the D4I, we are conscious of that fact, and so we are doing it in such a way that wherever we go, our special attention is given to women and the disabled. And for every location that we do this deployment, 60% will be allocated to women, 40% to the disabled. And for each group, 10% of each group will be given to the disabled person. So in a nutshell, these are the few slides I'm sharing with you for this session. Thank you very much.
May I kindly call on the chairman to give us a few words for the closure of this first session of the program.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank again the Honorable Minister for coming to spend time with us. It's rare you get someone to spend at least 2 hours in their very busy schedule. So again, a big thank you. Let's give a hand of applause. I also like to point out that one of the things that she's charged us to look at basically is to be the broadband forum, and more particularly the chamber would be able to be part of the stakeholder conference that is coming on sometime next year. So we're going to actively participate. And then we can also assure her that by the end of this session, we'll be able to provide some recommendations to her on modalities and guidelines for reviewing the broadband policy, updating it, and making it more relevant to today. We'll make sure that we keep it in simple English, as she said. So thank you very much again. Right.
Thank you very much, Doc. We have concluded the first part of the program. We're going for some 10 minutes break down there. When we return, we'll continue with the other sessions of the program. Once again, we're